Ohio, representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Hello, welcome everyone to the Spotlight here on Fightful. I'm Jeremy Lambert, that's Stephen Jensen, and shout out to Big Dick MLJ as always for the intro. Jensen, you're standing room only today.
Yeah, I'm standing. I might stand more often. It's nice having the options. I've been working from like this spot in my shoot job, and I got a chair here too, so I can always sit down if I need to. But it's kind of nice to be able to spread my wings a little bit, kind of like Pat McAfee does when he's kind of just loose walking around. It feel a little less constricted standing and moving around. So yeah. Anyway, it's Thursday. It is the NFL Draft tonight. That's a big reason why I've got the Vikings backdrop. I'm wearing my Purple Daily hoodie. Shout out to the boys over there, Score North. Hoping that the Vikings select the quarterback of the future tonight. I'm expecting them to trade up in the draft, either number 3 or number 5. I think they're going to either get Drake May at number 3 or JJ McCarthy at number 5 to replace Kirk Cousins long term. We got Sam Darnold for this season if we need him, and then we're going to have to rely. I like the move though, considering like if Drake May
Sam
JJ isn't ready. Well, Sam Darnold's also a number 3 overall pick though, who's been on like really cruddy teams and really cruddy coaching. Like, here, listen, this isn't a football podcast, but I love Kirk Cousins. Okay. I was one of the few ride or die Kirk Cousins fans all these years when he was in Minnesota, when everyone else was saying he wasn't worth the money and all this stuff. I always liked Kirk because I've dealt with way worse quarterbacks throughout my life. I mean, he was probably the best quarterback we had outside of one really good year with Brett Favre and a couple good seasons with Dante Culpepper. Outside of that, in my lifetime, long term, Cousins has been our best quarterback by far. But the money that Atlanta paid him, there was no way that we were going to pay him that kind of money, nor should we pay him that kind of money for a guy who's my age, coming off Achilles injury, and has only won one playoff game in his whole career. Minnesota massively overpaid, so he made Minnesota's job or decision really easy. It's like, all right, dude, business decision, go do your thing in Atlanta, see ya. But now it leaves us with the decision of like, because here's the other thing that could potentially happen: if the quarterbacks we want get drafted, if JJ McCarthy especially gets drafted by the Chargers, because Jim Harbaugh was his coach in Michigan, and now Harbaugh's the head coach at San Diego.
They have Herbert. Why are they going to draft McCarthy?
Well, that's the theory, is that because Harbaugh treats his kids like his players like they're his kids, and he's talking about how McCarthy's the best quarterback in like Michigan history, and all this stuff. So there's potential, and they're gutting the team. They got rid of Keenan Allen, like they're gutting the team and starting fresh with Harbaugh. They're
not drafting McCarthy top 5.
Yeah, they could. They very well could. I don't know when their pick is, but the theory is that with those picks, so what would happen is Minnesota would trade their picks away, and we would actually trade for Justin Herbert. So the Chargers would get JJ McCarthy, and the Vikings would wind up with Justin Herbert. Is like the conspiracy theory. Personally, I want Drake May personally, but I want any of these like elite college quarterbacks and just see what they can do. So, the Vikings need a new quarterback. Kirk's gone. And the Sam Darnold's not going to be the long-term solution, probably. And, anyway, I'm looking forward to the draft tonight because I think the Vikings are trading up to number 3 or number 5. Or, like I said, if JJ McCarthy goes to the Chargers and all the other quarterbacks are gone,
I will make a very, very bold prediction right now. Mm-hmm. If the Chargers draft JJ McCarthy and trade Justin Herbert, they're setting the franchise back a decade. That's an awful trade.
Dude, if you're asking me who I'd rather have right now, I'd rather have Justin Herbert than
Justin Herbert
someone who's never played in the NFL before, for sure.
Justin Herbert's arguably a top 5 quarterback. I mean, I know the wins and losses aren't, people look down upon that, but like talent wise, he's very, very good.
Oh, I agree. But I mean, the way that Jim Harbaugh is talking up McCarthy, but the other thing he can do is he can make the decision of where he winds up. He's like they're the 5th pick, right?
Yeah, they're the 5th pick.
So they would have to take McCarthy at 5, or the Vikings are going to trade for that pick. And we're going to take McCarthy there.
It feels like they trade back and try to get more assets and try to build around an actual good quarterback who's still young. It's not like Justin Herbert's in his 30s or anything.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying I've been watching this draft in postseason and in pre-draft stuff a lot over the last few months, and there's a lot of people that think that there's a possibility. The only reason that this is a thing is because Drake May was coached by Josh McCown, who's now the quarterback coach for Minnesota. So there's a link between Minnesota and Drake May. If we can't get Drake May at number 3, who is a guy that we want most likely, we're going to want JJ McCarthy. But we're going to have to trade up either way to get one of those 2 guys.
Yeah.
But if the Chargers throw a wild card and they actually wind up drafting him, because there is some smoke there, if they wind up drafting him, then we're going to probably trade for Justin Herbert because they're not going to need both of them. So anyway, we'll see what happens tonight at the draft. We're going to do our own draft today here on the show for the WWE. It is definitely draft season here on the Spotlight, but most likely, I do not think the Chargers are going to draft JJ McCarthy. I'm just saying there's a possibility there, but the Vikings are definitely taking one of those like top 4 quarterbacks or whatever, and they're probably going to have to draft or trade up to do it. The only reason they wouldn't trade up is if like something crazy happens, and because the thing everyone's expecting is the first 3 picks are going to be quarterbacks. Potentially the first like 6 or 7 out of 10. There could be 6 quarterbacks going in the first round, is what they're thinking. If we don't get one of those like top 4, then there's a problem. But we have the number 11 pick and the number 23, so we can use both of those to move up if we want to. So, anyways, I'm super stoked for the draft. This is the biggest draft the Vikings have ever had.
Panthers don't have a first round pick because we traded the first overall pick. Yeah.
People don't want to hear us talk about this. It's okay. We can move on to wrestling stuff.
The biggest question of the draft, Stephen Jensen.
Over 1 million fans and a great number in the demo tuned in. It was a great show, and I think it's been a run of great shows.
Mm-hmm. Is Tony Khan going to be wearing a neck brace? Is he going to be on crutches? Is he going to be able to be functional during the NFL draft? During the NFL draft, after being brutally, viciously attacked by Jack Perry, the Young Bucks, and Kazuchika Okada was there, but he didn't do anything to prevent it last night on Dynamite.
Yeah, he was doing the Scott Hall, which was awesome. Okada. I think that'd be pretty funny if Tony Khan wore the brace during the draft. I kind of doubt that he will, but NFL's like they gave it coverage, like their social media and stuff. Like they wrote articles about.
They did an article on it on NFL.com.
Yeah, so if Tony Khan wants to get more eyes and more attention on AEW, it'd probably be smart to wear the neck brace, because then people are going to be like, what's going on with this guy? Even if they have no idea what wrestling or AEW really is or has to offer, they might see that and be like, you just at least ask questions about why the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach is in a neck brace, and then at least leads to the conversation of, watch AEW on Dynamite. You know what I mean? AEW Dynamite on Wednesdays. But as far as the actual angle, so we haven't talked since Jack Perry returned. Obviously, I'm a big Jack Perry fan. If I had a list of my favorite wrestlers right now in the world, my top 3 would be Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, and Jack Perry. I think that Jack leaning into this whole scapegoat thing is really smart. The reactions they're getting, I think, are really good. And I think I understand. We've already discussed it at length, like the idea of them showing the footage of CM Punk and Jack Perry. Whether that was a good idea or not, it's kind of up to you to decide. but at the very least, they have tied it into this story and them getting heel heat, and like they have made use of the footage in a way that makes like some sort of logical sense on the show for storyline. So like, gotta give them credit for that. They didn't just show the footage just to show the footage and just nothing happened, on the show based off of it. So I think that it worked from that sense. And seeing Tony Khan, I mean, the one thing that I think people could knock that I would agree with is like the idea of Tony Khan being like an on-air like character. People have kind of like not wanted that this whole time for AEW. But
he said that he didn't want to do it.
Right. So given the circumstances of the storyline, it makes sense that he would have been attacked. And then to see Shad Khan out there, that was pretty cool, because I think that's the first time he's really showed up to do any. I mean, he's been at AEW events, but like he's never been like on screen, I don't think. Or I remember he gave away like a check or something, like Fight for the Fallen or something like that. But excuse me, but that is added to kind of like the realism of Tony's dad getting in the ring and like having to check out the situation. And I'll say this, man, like I'm a big fan of the original Elite. I was a big fan of those guys as a part of the Bullet Club, during their indie run and pre-AEW and all that stuff. And, Cody, of course, being a part of the original Elite, Cody, Hangman, the Bucks, and Kenny. They're a massive reason. I mean, the main reason AEW exists outside of Tony Khan's money. And I think that this new version of the Elite has potential to be like even more interesting in a lot of ways. I like the pairing of all four of those guys together. And I like how they basically like they replaced Omega with Okada. They replaced Hangman with Jack Perry. Like the roles we've kind of seen in the Elite are kind of getting filled in from the people who got fired from the Elite. And Kenny Omega is coming back next week, and they kept talking about changing the world last night, which is like a reference to him and stuff. So like, I personally like this angle a lot, and I really like the new Elite. And I thought it got a lot of people talking about the ending of Dynamite, and also once again tied in the CM Punk footage in a way that made sense.
Is it frozen? Okay. All right. Sorry about that. People, I guess, have different reactions to, of course they do. Like they're always gonna be like, how's this going? Tony being a character on screen is, he said he didn't want to do it. And I don't think he's going to be a long-term character, mind you. I would be a little stunned if he is like a weekly authority figure on this show. They did this angle for a number of reasons. I think the biggest reason they did this angle is the publicity that came with it. The Young Bucks could attack anybody. I mean, they are kind of the authority. There is no big authority in AEW. It's Tony Khan. And Tony Khan is, for better or worse, the most famous person in this company. He has ties to Fulham, his ties to the Jaguars. NFL Films is there filming him for this week because of the draft. That's why it was also at Daly's place, because they needed to be local to Jacksonville as the draft happened. They got a lot of publicity out of this. They're going to continue to get publicity. You mentioned the NFL.com article. That thing was weird in that like they kayfabed it of like, hey, we all know wrestling's fake, but Tony Khan took this bump.
Punched and pile drivered.
Yeah, but he's like he got pile driven, but they were very protective of Tony. Don't worry, he's actually okay. Like I don't know if that thing was better or worse for the angle, honestly, because like if I'm just a neutral fan reading that, I'm like, oh, this sounds kind of dumb. Truthfully, like they didn't actually attack him. Like I would have told that writer like, hey, actually sell this thing for us. Make it seem like maybe he's hurt.
They attacked him, but they were safe about it.
Yeah. So I don't know how actually helpful that article was, but the whole thing was designed to get publicity. And I think in that sense, it worked. We'll see if they cover anything off of the draft for this. They got a lot of people talking about it. You can only do that angle with Tony Khan. again, is he going to be a regular on television moving forward? No idea. Don't suspect it. What I do think we're going to see is now the Elite against Team AEW. Who that is, obviously Kenny Omega would likely be one of those people on Team AEW since he was fired by the Elite. I don't know the status of Kenny Omega's health though. You know, I know he's going to be on the show next week. I'm not getting my hopes high that Kenny Omega is getting back in the ring anytime soon. If he does, great. Honestly, if he does, like, good. I prefer to see Kenny Omega back in the ring sooner rather than later. But I'm not going to be like, oh, he's definitely coming back. It just seems like they're in Winnipeg. It seems like a good time for an appearance type of thing. That's my expectation. So we shall see. And then, you know, the rest of the team, who could it be? A returning MJF is a possibility. I think Hangman's more on the side of the Elite. And, you know, they forgive him and for his the attacking the referees. You know, they probably like that shit now. They're like, yeah, you know what? That was great. You should attack the referees. I think he's going to be more on their side. I assume it all leads to a blood and guts. Is all of this too early? Like, here's my fear of this is they burn it out too quickly. And because this has the potential to be a long-term thing, you know, it has the potential to be NWO. You know, I'm not saying it's going to be as big as the NWO. Don't get me wrong on this. But it has potential of these EVPs running the company and running roughshod on everybody and basically abusing all of their power. It has that potential. Are they going to burn it out too quickly, though? That's what I would be afraid of, is they just run through it. They ended it blood and guts, and that's it. So, you know, we'll see kind of how it plays out. Chi-Town Spurs says, don't fear, just enjoy the wild ride. I was dying laughing last night. Is that good? Were you supposed to be laughing that Tony Khan got beat up like that, though? It feels like you should want to be like, oh shit, like sympathetic. You want to hate this team, not cackle that they are beating up Tony Khan.
Alexander Fitzgerald in the chat said, Kenny Omega gets beat up next week to give a reason for a surgery. I can see that. I don't know what does he have to get surgery? Have they like, does anyone confirm that? Because I mean, that diverticulitis and that stuff he's dealing with is no joke. Sometimes you got to get surgery, sometimes you don't. But if he's got to get surgery, it would make sense if they beat him up next week, kind of take him out for a while. Now, as far as like the burnout question, that's a good question to ask. And like, you know, historically speaking, I think that AEW has done a really, really good job for the most part at long-term storytelling. Especially when it came to like early AEW, like the slow burn of Hangman Page winning the world title, for instance, or even like the long-term storytelling between like Darby Allin and MJF with like the headlock takeovers and stuff in their matches and like their history and stuff. Like they do a really good job when it comes to all of that. But then they did a really good job with the Devil storyline up until the reveal. And now we're at where we're at with the Undisputed Kingdom, which people who watch the show know I think that group's ass. I think that they've massively fumbled that entire thing, and I very much fear for MJF's return if he has to deal with feuding with them, because it's like a dead in the water feud, I think. But outside of that, I think that AEW's done a really good job. So I think given the people we're talking about too, we have to keep that in mind too. We're talking Kenny, we're talking Jack, we're talking Okada, we're talking Omega, we're talking probably MJF on his return, possibly Swerve, we're talking maybe Moxley. We're talking all of these people I'm mentioning is going to be banger matches. I think storylines that are going to be, you know, fun and interesting to watch. So like I'm here for it. Like I'm interested for it. And we both grew up in the 90s. So, I mean, like we lived through the actual NWO and all that stuff. And like, this seems in a lot of ways, like you mentioned, it seems in a lot of ways kind of like that in a good way. So yeah, I mean, I like where they're going with this. So, and I guess I don't necessarily fear that they're going to burn it out too quick, because I think the people involved, But my reservation once again is because like we're coming off of like that whole Undisputed Kingdom reveal that took forever, and like I don't think that really worked. So that'd be my only reservation, would be like that is as like a bad example.
A couple super chats. Shad Khan coming out with a surprise from Alexander Fitzgerald. Appreciate you, Alex, for sending that in. Yeah, that sold the angle more of Shad coming out. He did a great job. I don't know if he was clued in or not, but he sold it like he wasn't clued in. Look, it was a big angle. It got a lot of people talking. I hope it pays off for them. It got me hooked for sure. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm definitely here for next week. I watch anyway, but if I was just a non-regular viewer and I see that, or I'm reading about this, like, oh, I want to see where this goes. It is a big time angle for them. They have the pieces to make this very good. They have the pieces for. How am I wet blanketing?
Who said that?
Chi-Town Spurs. I don't know. Whatever.
You're not trashing anything, really.
Am I not allowed to like analyze things? I don't know.
Chi-Town, no, you're not blanketing. My bad. I think sometimes people just say stuff to say stuff. Like we're paying attention to the chat, y'all. No, Jeremy, it makes sense that you're looking at this from both perspectives. So I don't think you're being a wet blanket. You're a wet blanket when it comes to Cody all the time. But that's a totally different.
Well, that's
totally
just
different thing.
You.
Yeah,
that's a troll you. No, I don't know. I liked it. I don't know what people are like. I don't know. Whatever. Anything else?
Maggie, she's asking what a wet blanket is. Basically like being a downer. It's like that's basically what he's saying. She said she wants to give me a beer because of how I'm standing. I don't know what that means, but I mean, I'll take a beer. Make me a Bloody Mary, please. I'd enjoy Bloody Mary. I ran out of Bloody Mary mix the other day. I gotta get some more today for the draft. Anyways, sorry. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I don't know. Again, I like the angle. I thought it was really good. I have certain reservations. I will let it play out. But I enjoyed the angle. I like where the Elite is going. I think they have the pieces to make this very good. I hope they really go through with this and they don't burn through it too quickly. They don't just, July is usually blood and guts. I hope that in July they don't just do blood and guts and then, oh, okay, the power is back. In AEW, we've taken out the Elite. I think this has the potential to be a very long-term thing for them. I hope that's what it actually is. And, we shall see. As far as the angle goes, just last night, I thought it was great.
Now, I'm just going to say this before we move on, just to put the seed out there. Imagine if they would have done all of this while CM Punk was still in the company. Like, if they could have all gotten together and actually like squash the beef. And then we got this because like the CM Punk Jack Perry stuff like wouldn't have happened. So like that would have made things a little bit different because like it would have been squashed before all that, hypothetically. But just like the idea of like CM Punk, the Bucks, Kenny brawl out, all that happens. Everyone knows about it. And then like we see the Elite doing this, what they're doing right now, but against CM Punk. You know what I mean? Like that's what I think everybody wanted when all that went down, would have been like the resolution would have been like to get there between Punk and Kenny and Punk and the Bucks and all that stuff. But obviously we're at where we're at. You can't go back and do that. I feel like everyone's in a better place now anyway, including CM Punk being back in the WWE. But just wanted to throw that out there too. It's like, this is what I think people were like when people were getting upset and frustrated over like, work it out, figure it out, make an actual storyline between Punk and the Bucks and Kenny on TV, it would have looked kind of like this. It kind of feels like that makes sense.
All right, now I'll actually wet blanket something. Swerve Strickland won the AEW World title at Dynasty, which I think was the correct call. It was a good match, beat Samoa Joe. Last night was not what I would have done as the first big appearance for Swerve Strickland as the champion. He comes out segment 2 after they do the angle with Chuck and Trent and Orange Cassidy, he has a 50-50 match with Kyle Fletcher, who loses every single time he's on AEW television, despite being the ROH TV champion. And Don Callis, from what I heard, because the audio issues were so bad, as people have mentioned, basically spent the entire time putting himself over and Kyle Fletcher kind of over. I thought it was not the best presentation of Swerve for this being the Swerve era now. And, you know, with the big angle that they did, it overshadowed Swerve and his title win to me, which is, you know, okay, fine. This was the big angle that they were going to do, that they were going to run with. I'm fine with that. But Swerve was going to get overshadowed anyway, just because that presentation, the way it came off was just like, he didn't feel like the world champion to me. They could have put anybody else in that match and it would have just been the same thing. He was the world champion because he had the title. But at no point did I feel like, hey, that's the world champion in there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, I do want to say real quick, since we haven't had a show since Dynasty. Excuse me. Hey, there we go. Well, congratulations to Swerve on becoming the champion. I do want to say that. That Dynasty show was, from top to bottom, was bangers. That was a great pay-per-view card. I thoroughly enjoyed the entire Dynasty event. Swerve and Joe, I don't think was the best match on the show. There was some very, very, very stiff competition on that, but
Chris Jericho and Hook, I agree.
Jericho. Now I'll say this about Jericho real quick: the learning tree stuff, it kind of pops me. Just the concept that he thinks he's a baby face, but he's getting booed. Like I like that they're like leaning into that dynamic. It's at least a little bit different. But as far as Swerve and Joe, I think they botched the like second to last move of the match on the top rope. Like something didn't go right there, and then Swerve like had to powerbomb him. I've said it 1,000 times. I mean, it takes me out of it watching people just sit there and wait for his finisher over and over again, like sitting straight up and looking at him, waiting to get Swerve stomped. Like that always throws me off, especially when he does it multiple times a match. Outside of that, congratulations to Swerve. It was a very big goal of his. He mentioned it many times that he wanted to become the first African-American AEW champion. He has done that. That's a huge accomplishment. I'm very happy for him. He's a guy I've talked about before. I interviewed him on my personal podcast back when he was in Lucha Underground as Kill Shot still. And he was like the nicest guy in the world. Gave me like an hour of his time when he absolutely did not have any reason to. I've always been a big fan of his on a personal level. He seems like a great dude. We have some like mutual friends and I hear nothing but good stuff about Swerve. Like you just always positive. Just seems like a great dude. So I'm happy that he's representing AEW as the world champion and being the first African-American champion. That's history. So I'm very, very happy that he's the guy who got to accomplish that. That said, I'm with you on last night. I wouldn't have done that. That wouldn't have been like my introduction to him being the champion, the Kyle Fletcher 50-50 match that you're talking about. Because to be completely honest, like presentation wise, just for example, like when I see Will Ospreay, I feel like he's like being anointed. It's like he's the guy. He's gonna be the guy. And I feel like that every time I see him.
He's in the challenging for the international title because he was.
That's strange, but like, I mean, do you think that they're gonna have him win that and then consolidate it with the world title? Like just get rid of that international belt. That's what I'd have him beat Roderick Strong for it, and then I'd have him unify it with the world title when he eventually beats Swerve for it at Wembley.
No, I actually think that that's going to be a loss for Ospreay because they've been setting it up they've been setting up literally since Sunday, but the Storm Driver, Tiger Driver, he's not using anymore because of what happened to Danielson. Don Callis mentioned, Roddy's had the neck issues and everything. And I think that's going to he's going to go for it or not go for it. He's going to hesitate going for it. Don Callis is going to be screaming at him and everything. the Undisputed Era is going to be out there.
Undisputed Kingdom. Don't disrespect the era.
Whatever.
I've done it myself. That's the only reason I called it.
And that's actually going to cost him the match against Roddy. And that's when he gets attacked by the Don Callis family and officially jumped out of that group. That's my guess anyway.
That's a I can stop knocking my ears. I forget that this is hanging in front of me, so I keep hitting it with my hand. Sorry, I'm gonna put my
it was very weird. It was very weird to me that he was in the match, because to me, like, why isn't he challenging for the world title now? I know they're building towards All In. At least that's the theory, that they're building towards All In. But I'm looking at, like, if you're going to tell me rankings matter, which where have they been? But if you're going to say wins and losses matter and everything, this dude's undefeated. He's beaten all these guys. He's beaten Hobbs, Takeshita, Fletcher, Danielson. He's undefeated. He should be having a world title match. I don't think there's any else better than Will Ospreay as far as wins and losses goes. Like, there's no one else at the top of the list, so he should be challenging for the world title now. Instead, he was in this gauntlet match. Next week, we're learning who challenges Swerve. We don't know how. We don't know how we're learning this, but we're learning this. And I jokingly tweeted, like, Will Ospreay's a dummy. They're gonna do a battle royal next week to decide the Swerve's challenger, and he's not gonna be able to enter because he's already got a shot at the international title. So it was fine. He was in the match. I don't know if he should have won though, but this is the way they're going. I've already laid out how I think this is going to play out. Now we'll see, but he should be challenging for the world title in my mind.
I agree with all of that. I think that's a good prediction though. The idea of like how Callis and the Callis family will probably play hand in screwing Omega or screwing Ospreay out of that thing, or like kicking him out of the group. But I'm with you 100% on everything else too. Like, I don't want to like trash the international title because, like, okay, Pac being the first champion, it introduced it, but they made the title out of nowhere. It was like made for Forbidden Door the first year. They just like out of nowhere were like, we're also going to have this brand new title. I think because they just wanted to have some sort of like mini tournament between AEW and New Japan pretty much. So they created the title out of nowhere, really for no reason. And then, because you already have all these other championships. And then Orange Cassidy's first run with it really established the title. Like, obviously he had a great run with that thing. And then ever since Moxley won it and then like accidentally lost it because of it, getting like knocked out during the match with Phoenix and all that stuff. And like the way that all this is played out, I just feel like when you already have, we talked about it ad nauseum, but when you already have a world title, a continental title, a TBS title, an international title, an FTW title, like you got enough belts. I don't see a need for this international title at all to begin with. And I don't know why Ospreay, if this was real, I know this is all at the mercy of like the booking, but like if this was real, there's no reason Ospreay would have any interest in this title. He would just be going straight for the world title, just like you said. So that's the only reason I'm with you guys though. Now, the more that I think about it, there probably will be something something will happen where Roddy will retain and it'll lead to Ospreay finally separating from the Callis family. That's probably what will happen. But I mean, then they just got to get Ospreay back on track to, basically win the world title at Wembley.
I say just give him a bunch of wins, but they gave him a bunch of wins here, and then he still just won a Contenders Gauntlet match for the international title. Like, with no actual rankings, all they need to do is just have him win a tournament, have him win a Gauntlet match, have him win a Battle Royal to decide whatever they need to do. I hope, with this Elite story, you can do more storylines with this. I saw people in the chat mention like the Elite should just handpick who Swerve faces. This is where Hangman could possibly come in, and there's like, you know what? We're gonna give Hangman. He's our pal. He's not suspended anymore. He's gonna get this first title match. I almost feel like Hangman should win that though, and I don't think Swerve's run should be a month. So that's where it could be an issue. But look, Swerve can win, and he can be the guy to step up and protect AEW from the elite. I'd be completely fine with that. I think Swerve is actually a very good choice, and that presents Swerve as, you know, I talked about the presentation, how I wasn't a big fan of it last night. That presents Swerve on that level, because right now the elite feel like the biggest and best thing in AEW. So if Swerve is battling against them, he needs to hold on to this title to basically protect the company from them, because he, in his mind and in the minds of some fans, but like having the world title means having some power, then Swerve still holding that title to battle them makes a lot of sense to me, and does a lot of good things for Swerve.
Yeah. I don't know what Darby's status is, like when he'll be back. I'd imagine he'll be on Team AEW whenever he's back. He's another one to look out for. And him and Swerve are real life, like, best friends. Like, that can kind of play into their alliance too.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. Or Darby out.
Anything else from AEW Dynasty or Dynamite last night?
I mean, I thought Dynasty, like I said, was an incredible show. Trying to think of what I would want to spotlight the most. I'll say this, just because I think it deserves a lot of credit, or she deserves a lot of credit, I should say. Toni Storm, not only like in the ring, is having good matches, and I think she's become one of the better World Women's Champions that AEW has ever had. But even more importantly and more impressive to me is when she goes to these post-fight scrums after the show, and she's still in character, and she's so good at playing off of the media and the stuff that she's saying, and playing off of Tony Khan and playing off of Mariah May. So I just wanted to give her a little credit on that. I know people have been high on Toni Storm for a long time. We just don't talk about her that much on the show. And I just wanted to bring her up because I'm thoroughly like, she like those. There's gonna be people who see this that aren't gonna like me hearing this, but I think a lot of those post-fight, like when it's the UFC, it's different. But when you do these like post-fight scrums for pro wrestling, especially like with AEW, my honest opinion is it comes off it's very cringe in a lot of ways, depending on who's asking questions, what's being asked, and like the order of what's being asked and what you can't ask, which is a tough spot for people to be in. I get that, but like what I'm looking forward to the most when I see those press conferences for them now, I'm like really looking forward to seeing what Toni Storm does. Like I think that she's really, really, really good at what she's doing with her character right now. So I wanted to give her some credit as well for what she's doing. Toni Storm's killing it.
Her statement at the press conference absolutely ruled. Yeah, I like Toni Storm in those press conferences because she takes about 5 minutes of time and gets out of there. And as someone who stays up late to cover those things, I appreciate that. So, and she's been, some of her ring work with this character hasn't been fully like, I think the match that when she won the title, I wasn't like the biggest fan of that, but the Azumi match was fantastic. And I thought the Thunder Rosa match was very good as well. So yeah, when she kind of gets a little bit away from the character in the ring, her ring work is really great. When she's like playing the character in the ring, almost by design, it's not great because that's just, she's not supposed to be 5-star banger match wrestler with this character. You know, she's a star. She's there to win the matches, not, you know, don't care about your star ratings.
Yeah. Also, sorry to say real quick, congratulations also to Willow Nightingale. I know that was pretty obvious she was going to win the TBS championship and go on to face Mercedes, but Willow's somebody that I was watching years ago and covering on the Weekender when she was one of the main faces of Beyond Wrestling. So it's been really cool to see like her progression and that she's got championship gold. Also, shout out to Okada versus Pac. That was a really good match too. All right, go ahead.
Vince Blade says Tony got murked and it was amazing. Jack Scranton was fantastic. How bad do the Elite do Kenny next week? Oh, that's a possibility. I don't know if Kenny can take bumps. You know, he mentioned that like he was in, this was this is a couple weeks ago on his Twitch stream, and I will preface that like it's very possible Kenny is just working on his Twitch stream as well. But he mentioned that like his cat steps on his stomach and like that hurts. So I don't know if he's going to be taking like giant bumps if just a little bit of pressure from his cat is hurting him right now. We shall see. It's very possible he does take a bump, and that's how they further write him off of television. It's also possible he's cleared, he's good, he's gonna be back in the ring. I don't know. I'm only going based on what Kenny has said on his Twitch stream. And again, I will say that it's very possible he's working on these Twitch streams. I will always assume that wrestlers are working.
What's the over-under on before the end of the segment, we see Kenny Omega get spray painted by the Elite?
I don't think they're going to do that, but I don't know. They might. What else could they do? They should do not spray paint, but like the confetti blasters, but the money gun. They had that before, right? With the shoots the bucks. Okada's the Rainmaker. That's what they do. They just shoot the money gun on people.
I like that. Just bury them in money.
Yeah.
Them. Just make it rain on them.
Exactly.
Nice.
I think that's
cool. Good. Yeah. But yeah, I'm here for all that stuff. I think AEW is in a good spot right now. So I like what I'm seeing. Good, great, fantastic pay-per-view. And I think the fall of Dynamite last night was pretty good. Some misses, but mostly hits.
I thought the closing angle of Dynamite was very good. I wasn't the biggest fan of the entire show. The audio issues didn't help either.
Yeah.
Like that was, I don't know how that's going to affect things, but it wasn't great that they couldn't get those cleaned up basically the entire show. At least for the first half of the show. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not going to base anything off the viewership anyway. Closing angle was very good.
Yep.
JJ said, hello to my favorite big star and king of the indies. All I thought about when I saw TK was the Dixie Carter TNA music. All right, let's get into
the draft.
I need to finish the story. In the WWE, the story never finishes.
The WWE Draft is beginning tomorrow. It is a 2-night draft. Works basically the same way the last few drafts works, I believe, is they're doing, this is how they've done it for a little while. They have their polls of who gets drafted on Friday, who gets drafted on Monday, and of course it works like they do a roster split until they decide they're not doing a roster split anymore. The champions are protected. That is a thing that was announced. So the Raw champions will remain on Raw. The SmackDown champions will remain on SmackDown. The women's tag team champions, Asuka and Kairi Sane, are eligible to pick. Jensen, I'm going to allow you to be SmackDown because they have Cody Rhodes, and I feel like that's only fair.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And also Logan Paul. Like I figured you would.
I would have taken both of them immediately.
Yeah.
First 2 picks, probably.
Yeah, so SmackDown is 4 rounds, 16 total picks. So I guess that's what, like 3? My math is god awful. Is that 3 rounds per 3 picks per round? Is that right?
Well, do they still do the thing where it's like Raw gets 3 picks for every 2 SmackDown gets because it's a 3-hour show?
No, I don't think they do that. They haven't done that in the past. I feel like it's been SmackDown Raw, SmackDwn Raw, SmackDown Raw.
Either way, for the case of us doing it, we're going to do even picks because we're not booking actual hours worth of television. All
right, let me pull up.
I will say this too. I think it's lame that they split the draft up like this. They've been doing it for years, but I think it's lame. They should do it all in one night and have everybody eligible and do like an actual real draft because it's like fake news when you're reading like the draft order. And it's like first overall pick, second overall pick, and it's like, well, I mean, like half the people weren't available. Anyway, that's just
one thing that like wasn't clarified is tag teams and stables. like they didn't even list this. The list you're using, I think it's from our website, and I did everybody separately because they did not. That's just what they tweeted. They didn't even put out like okay. They actually do have a newser on their website. All right, so it is all right. Use the WWE.com. Go there
WWE.com.
because that has the groups together. So it looks like you can draft groups instead of separately.
Where are you seeing this? When I type in WWE.com, it defaults straight to the NXT Level Up page because I use it for the weekend.
Okay, go click on the WWE logo in the top left-hand corner.
No, I'm good. I'm on the home page now.
Okay, click more news, like in the middle. You don't have to click that. It says full list of rules and available draft superstars under the news.
Oh, I see it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that has the groups together. I'm also I'm pulling up the board here, so
I see. I got it all now. Hell yeah. Okay, cool. That already threw off my entire draft, my whole draft strategy because I forgot that the champions weren't eligible because obviously it was. So this will be fun.
There we go. There's the list here. All
right, nice.
So,
you got this all set up so people can see it too. Great.
Yeah. I kind of know what I'm doing
Jeremy.
sometimes.
Good man.
Sometimes I know what I'm doing. Okay. So the top group is who's eligible for SmackDown, which is the first night. So we're going to do 16 picks on here. All right. So you are SmackDown and I am Raw. We're actually going to, there we go. Okay. All right. So do you want to pick first?
Yes. So the only eligible names are, well, I mean, I have the Friday draft pool in front of me. So, okay.
Yeah, the draft pool is right here. You can see it, or you can look at the list that you have pulled up.
Okay.
So Friday's draft pool.
All those are Friday in front of me right there on your screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. This will go a lot faster after the first few picks. I just got to get a good eye on. And you can also draft NXT people too.
Yeah.
They didn't specify who, they're just
Yeah, Dragunov and Roxanne were basically givens, I guess, because they both said they were in the draft pool. So yeah.
I take the Bloodline.
Wow.
It has them listed as one. I mean, I'd take Roman individually if that was the only thing, but gotta go with the Bloodline as a package.
I am going to take AJ Styles.
I like that pick. That was my next one, unless you picked Seth Rollins, who I'm taking.
Okay. I figured you would try to take AJ Styles. So
AJ would have been if you would have taken Rollins, I would have taken AJ.
Rollins is hurt, so.
Yeah, but this is long term. This is long. Well, I should say that, but in 2 weeks, there'll be a wild card where everyone will be on both shows.
Right.
It won't matter. But
Bianca Belair.
That's that would have probably been my next one.
Dead air.
Sorry, guys. I'm reading the thing. I'll take Randy Orton.
All right. Liv Morgan.
Okay. I'll take Jey Uso.
Your women's division sucks.
Well, we got all these women that I can take on Monday for the Monday draft pool. They got a lot of good ones. I just tipped off my strategy. Anyway,
LA Knight. I know I don't feel like you're gonna take him, but
I wouldn't have. That's a safe one. I'll take Braun Breaker.
Shayna Baszler.
Okay. I'll take Ricochet. Because I've already got Logan Paul and Cody on my roster. I mean, we're stacked.
You do have Logan Paul and Cody on your roster. I'm gonna take Alpha Academy.
Yep.
Gable.
I like that. Let's see here. I'll take Nia Jax. She's been doing a lot better work lately. I got to give her some credit.
Sheamus.
I think Ivar. You have to scroll back up.
That's fine. And finally, gonna take the OC just because again I get a three pack there.
It's amazing how much they just like people don't care.
Keep the locker room happy. The Good Brothers gotta go. We'll keep the locker room happy as well. All right.
Yeah.
So I have the first pick for Raw, and this round is
so the people that were left are they're not.
They're just there.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just there. All right. So it's 12 picks each, 24 in total for Raw. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Okay. Am I counting here? All right. I get the first pick. Of course, I also have the champions on this show, which is Becky. And I can't believe you split up the family of Becky and Seth. That's terrible of you. All right. The first pick, I am going to take. I'm gonna have a stacked women's division. Jade Cargill.
I like it. Okay. I'll take CM Punk.
Your roster super injury and not showing up.
I'm good. Cody's gonna make every single show. It doesn't matter.
He's gonna defend the title against nobody.
He's got a whole list. No, he got a whole list of challengers. People when they come back in, we're good. I got a strategy here. I'm about to pop off here in a second. Don't worry.
Are you? Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna take the Judgment Day.
Okay, I'll take Drew McIntyre. You can
keep them all together.
Yep.
Okay, Drew McIntyre. I'm gonna take Damage Control.
All right, I'm gonna go NXT and take Ilya Dragunov.
I forgot that NXT was a thing. I'm probably not going to take anybody from NXT just because I completely forgot.
Well, let's just say that the only other person eligible would be like Trick Williams or maybe Carmelo. Is Carmelo Hayes already on one of the main rosters or no?
No.
Those would be like the only three. Maybe we choose from like those guys, like because those are the ones who we figure.
No, Trick Williams is the champion. Like I don't.
That's right. He just won the title. That's right. He just won the title. Good call.
I feel great about taking the champion here.
Good call.
I'm gonna go with Kevin Owens.
Now I'm noticing is Rhea Ripley not eligible because she's hurt? Is she not on here?
Yeah, she's not eligible because she's hurt.
She would have been one of my first picks. Like if she was out there, she would have been like a top 3 or 5 potentially. I like her a lot. Same with Charlotte Flair. I don't see her on here either for the same reason.
Another injury.
You taking Damage Control threw a big wrench in my plans because that's like that would have really filled out my women's division. Let's see. No, actually, I'll take Tiffany Stratton. I think she's got a ton of potential.
I'm going to take Imperium. I was very concerned you were about to take Imperium.
Yeah, that's a fumble not taking them. I missed that. If I would have seen just the name Gunther on the list, I know he was on the side there, but I probably would have taken that earlier. Let's see. I'll take LWO.
I'll take Naomi.
That's my next one. I'll take Natalia.
Love Natalia. Bitch. All right. Gonna go with my guys, the New Day.
Nice. Okay, Shinsuke Nakamura.
Gonna go with the Pride.
I'm gonna take Candice LeRae and Indy for mine.
Creed Brothers.
I'll take Chelsea and Piper.
Now you're scrambling for your female roster.
Well, I mean, I'm filling out the whole roster. We got I've got Nia Jax on top, and who
yeah. Your women's roster is trash.
It's rough. It's rough. Yeah, you got me on the women's for sure. My men's side is stacked.
Just a bunch of injured people and people who don't show up.
Nah, come on, man. Star power. Plus, once again, Cody's the champ.
I'm gonna go with Bronson Reed. It's weird that Braun Strowman is listed, even though he's injured.
Yeah, I'll take Carter and Chance. So I'm getting all these doubles on filling out my women's division.
Yeah, Jensen's the home of 3-minute women's matches.
Hey, I'm the one booking though, so I can give them more than 3 minutes if I'd like.
You're gonna have to use your men's rosters. Half of them aren't there. Let's go with Pretty Deadly. They're fun.
I'll take Cash Republic once you down there.
I got a 3-hour show, so like, you know. And the final pick will be. I do kind of want to dip into NXT now that I look at the rest of this. Like, might as well. I don't want to take Roxanne Perez because I feel like that's a little unfair considering she is a champion. I'm also not the highest on the NXT female roster.
Sure. I mean, DIY is still out there. It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Really fallen. I like Odyssey Jones a lot. He just has he even on the main roster?
Yeah, I was surprised to see him list. Like he technically is on the main roster, but like
Sol Ruka is a good one for Maggie. That's not a bad choice at all, actually.
I was gonna go Lyra because she's the former champion. Yeah, I would take Roxanne. That would be the pick. I just don't feel good about picking a champion. That's the only reason I'm not doing it. I'm gonna go with Lyra just because former champion. I think she's the best female in NXT outside of Roxanne.
I'm gonna go on potential, and I'm actually gonna go on Maggie's suggestion, and I wanted to go NXT also at some point with the women. I'm gonna go Sol Ruka. I like that one a lot.
My roster clearly washes Jensen because
not on the men's
I'm
side.
gonna have female wrestling on my show, and Jensen's gonna have none.
Yeah,
Jensen's gonna have Bailey out there doing 20-minute promos with Cody.
Part of where I messed up on this was because I didn't see hardly any women listed on Friday's list. I just assumed when I scrolled down and looked at Monday, it was going to have like Charlotte and Rhea and like some of these women that like were not even on the list. So that's on me. But hey, I still did all right. I think my men's division is super mega stacked, and my women's division has a lot of potential. Like I could build around Nia. Okay, just hear me out here.
Famous last words.
I think Nia has. I got to give her. I despise.
Look, she's been
Nia
good.
Jax
I'm not gonna
years
knock
ago.
her.
Years ago, I was not a Nia Jax fan, but current day, I think she has improved drastically. And I could build around her as like a monster women's champion. And then I've got a lot of really good up and coming talent and potential to have good matches with her to try to take her down. So I'll stand by this. Yeah. Tiffany Stratton long-term is going to be a star. Sol Ruka long-term is going to be a star. Carter and Chance haven't really breaking out. They're a good tag team. Like, I got some good talent here. Don't knock it. I think I did better than what you're saying.
I think Sol Ruka is good. Her finisher looks cool.
Soul Snatcher.
Yeah, I'm like the rest. She still needs a little bit of work.
Tiffany Stratton was super over in that Elimination Chamber.
Tiffany Stratton's good. I like the Tiffany Stratton pick.
But once again, if Charlotte Flair was on the board and Rhea Ripley was on the board, I would have attempted I would have taken them in the first probably within the first 3 or 4 of my picks. I would have taken Rhea, and then I would have taken Charlotte like right after. Like those would have been two main players for me if they were available. To be fair,
you're a home wrecker. You split up Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. You also split up Tiffany Stratton and Ludwig Kaiser. Who else? What other splits did you have from the family?
We don't know where Johnny Gargano is going to wind up because no one drafted DIY, but I took Candice. And that's another one. Candice has always been really talented in the ring and hasn't really gotten much of a shot. So I mean, I took her. I think that's when you really break down my draft picks here and look at the women's roster that I've assembled, it actually is pretty solid.
These
like
are good
if you look at everybody,
you got some work to do. You got some work to do.
But if you look at everyone individually and not as like just all tag teams, like and see it as like all these people could be potential title challengers and do it off of potential. See,
are you gonna put the belt on Candice LeRae?
I'm gonna put the belt on Nia Jax. Eventually, probably Tiffany Stratton would be the one to take her down. But listen, I'm like Paul Heyman, okay, in my booking philosophies. Outside of like, listen, you got to have. If you're over the age of 40, I'm chopping your head off, except for one guy, and my one guy is CM Punk. The rest of them, I got the younger talent. I'm going on potential. I'm gonna mold them. They are balls of clay that I'm gonna mold into my own vision, and I'm gonna talk.
Is it really younger talent? I mean,
not all of it.
Do you want to make some trades, Jensen? Do you want to try to make some trades?
Let's see. Let me look at your. I mean, if I do, it had to be on the women's side. Like I'd need women from you. I mean, Bianca would be the one I'd want the most, but she was your first women's pick. You're not going to get rid of her.
I'm not going to help your weakness. I feel good about my roster.
Well, that's the whole point of trading is like as both people feel like they won a little bit and lost a little bit. Like that's the whole point of the trade.
Yeah, but when I feel good about my roster, I don't have a reason to make trades.
Oh no, I feel good about my roster. You're just trying to make me feel bad because I waited so long to take most of my women's roster. But
yeah, your women's roster is not good.
But while I was waiting, look at the star power that I've got on this show. Cody Rhodes, we got to keep in mind, Cody Rhodes is the champion. He's going to be there every week defending that title. Logan Paul is a massive star holding down that U.S. title.
Not going to be there every week.
People to challenge them.
Roman Reigns doesn't show up. Solo Sikoa is a big old loser. Seth Rollins is injured. Randy Orton's 50. Jey Uso's fine. I like Jey Uso. Braun Breaker, okay. And then you got mid-card guys. Ricochet.
Who could be main event if pushed correctly.
You're not going to put Ricochet in the main event.
I'm going to give some. Listen, what they're doing with him on TV right now is pretty smart. He's just going out there and having bangers. They're making him look like he matters at least a little bit, but I know what you mean.
CM Punk's injured.
But when he's back, Drew. get that big pop. Get that big pop. Have one great match and get injured again. But I the amount of money I'd make in that one match.
I like Drew. Yeah. Ilya, what's his finish so Cody can kick out? I like Tiffany. I like Tiffany Stratton. LWO is fine. That's a good value pick with all those people.
And I get Zelina in there too for the women's division.
You're not going to use her.
I'm going to use all the women. That's why I drafted them.
Natalia, love Natalia. Shinsuke, all right, he loses a bunch.
He does. He loses too much. He's like my Danielson for you. It's like Shinsuke's got to start telling people that he's not laying down anymore.
You just got women's tag teams who are like fine individually, but
that I'm going to use individually.
Are you gonna have Bailey lose to them? This is your big feud, your big Candice and Bailey feud.
No, but Nia and Bailey. I'm putting a lot of eggs in the Nia Jax basket. Okay.
Yeah, you're building your company around Nia Jax. That's a strategy.
The time is now. The time is now for Nia. But yeah, that's right. I mean, I already have Bailey on the roster as my champion, so I'm already starting off I'm already starting off on a good leg there. Bailey versus Sol Roca eventually versus Tiffany Stratton versus Candice LeRae. These are all good matches.
People are you're overinflating how good some of these people are.
What are you trying to say, Jeremy? Who specifically are you?
I think Sol Roca is like, fine, but she has a very cool finish. I don't know if
Bro, I've been watching her on NXT Level Up. See, half my roster are people I've watched on Level Up before they made even the NXT roster, way before they were on the main rosters. So I got a little connection to it. I know the potential. I've seen a lot of these talents go from generic, no moves.
You do realize here's the issue with the potential thing and all of this. You basically got a year with this roster because then the draft happens next year and then we're redoing all of this all over again. So you got a year with this roster. That's it.
The sad truth is we have no time at all with either of these rosters because it's all one company and none of this is real anyways. But I understand what you're saying, Jeremy. But I still think there's enough meat on the bone here for some really good stuff in that 1 year with Bailey as a champion. Nia
Are you turning Randy Orton heel? Who's your heels here? Who's challenging Cody? Drew?
CM Punk eventually challenges Cody for sure.
No, that match is never happening. Punk's
got to happen. That's the amount of money I'd make on that match. I'd have to do it. Drew McIntyre and Cody for sure happening. That's a big one. Eventually Cody and Logan Paul would be a big one too. I've already got both of those guys on the roster. Eventually Logan will drop the US title and feud with Cody in a humongous internet shattering match. I've also got
I got R-Truth and Miz. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I like both those guys. And then even like Ricochet, like you could put Ricochet up there and have a title match against Cody Rhodes. Like Ricochet is always going to show out in the ring. Like,
sure. What's his finish so Cody can kick out?
But Ricochet, does he still do the 630?
Is Cody ever losing in the title? Be honest with you.
Oh, with me booking?
Yeah.
Oh no, of course not. He's not losing to any of these guys. Are you kidding me? The only person that has a chance is Drew McIntyre. The only person on our roster has a chance. Or sorry, Drew McIntyre or Logan Paul. Logan Paul's got a shot too, because I'm such a mark for what he's doing. But no, realistically speaking, Cody doesn't lose the title for an entire year. Like he's going into WrestleMania next year as a champion.
Against Roman Reigns again, because that's really the only.
Well, and also with the way that I drafted here, you could do Cody versus Solo. You could do Cody versus Tama Tonga. You could, with having the bloodline, that backdoors me into Jacob Fatu, which no one considered that either. So I'll probably wind up getting Jacob Fatu, could wind up getting Zilla Fatu, could wind up getting Juicy Finau. So basically, I have now drafted the entire Anoa'i, Rocky Johnson, High Chief bloodline family. Anyone who's in that atmosphere is now on my roster, and they can all feud with Cody, and Cody can beat them all.
Yes.
And I get The Rock too, but technically I get The Rock. So that's huge. And The Rock and Cody, obviously that's happening in real life and on my show.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Cody's gonna spend his entire show just burying CM Punk.
Oh yeah, I mean there'd definitely be a lot of that, and I would turn CM Punk heel as well. I'd have him feud with McIntyre and then turn heel because I've got both of them. So
all right, you
see the vision. You see the vision. No, go ahead. I mean, people in the chat can make their minds up. Who do y'all think had the better draft here? No wrong answers. No wrong answers here.
Oh, there's a wrong answer. If you like women's wrestling, there's a wrong answer.
You're being too harsh on the women that I drafted.
Am I?
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's some talent. I like some of the women you have, but you got a Bailey and Tiffany Stratton feud, and then you're out of ideas. Nia Jax.
Bailey Nia. Let's go, Nia. Come on. I'm not going to sit here and listen to the Nia Jax slander anymore, okay? Now, granted, had you drafted her, I probably wouldn't be sticking up for her so much. But, no, and then, dude, we're totally glossing over that I've got Zelina Vega as well. Like, she can still go. Yeah. I've got good talent on my show.
She can do that Hurricane Rana.
Yes, she can. Come out wearing a Puerto Rican flag, get massive pops. I'm down, dude. I stand by my roster. I'm happy with what I've got. I think you got a good draft as well, though. Not nearly as much star power, but you got a good draft.
I have a balanced roster, and I got a 3-hour show to book, so I'm already at a detriment there. What do you mean not as much star power?
I've got Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, The Bloodline, Drew McIntyre, and Seth Rollins, and Logan Paul.
You know who gets bigger pops than all of them?
No one gets bigger pops than them. No. Oh, get out of here, dude. You could have waited until the very end to take him. He was not coming to SmackDown. You said, yeah, LA. You're gonna put LA Knight over the list that I just gave you. Okay. I think it's fair to knock the star power in my women's division, but I will stand by it on the potential and what I think you could do with it. But on the men's side, I think I've blown you away on the star power on the men's side.
Oh, you've definitely got more star power on the men's side. All of them are injured or don't show up, but you have more power for sure.
Okay. Good draft. That was fun. I like doing that.
I got Sami Zayn, the best wrestler in the company, which I lucked into him because he's the Intercontinental Champion. I got Gunther.
That was a good pick. Getting Imperium late like you did, that was a good one. That was a steal.
That's I'm just gonna do a bunch of Sami Zayn and Gunther matches.
So basically, like what we've already been seeing on Raw.
Yeah. All the women completely carry my show. We're gonna have women's main events on our show. Everybody, you ain't getting that on SmackDown. With your 28-minute Cody Rhodes promos.
Hey, I'm at, dude. The Rock and Cody went like 45 a couple weeks ago, and it was good. So,
yeah, Gunther against just the Creeds. Gunther, Bronson Reed. Just
I like
Gunther against anybody.
I love Gunther. I do. He's in my top 5 in the WWE probably. Like he's way up there. I like him a lot. I should have taken him earlier. I let that slip. That's on me as well. That was an oversight on my. I was focused on making sure I was building that women's roster. You know what I mean?
If you had taken Gunther and Kaiser, I was going to take Tiffany Stratton just to nuke your women's division even more.
Well, I'm glad that I got Tiffany Stratton because I do like her a lot. Like I said, in that Elimination Chamber match, she was like arguably the most over women woman in that match. Like people were like heated when she got eliminated. That showed me a lot. And obviously she's kept the momentum. I like her a lot. And once again, she was someone else I was watching on NXT Level Up. Years ago. Technically years ago. I always forget how long NXT Level Up's actually been going on because like I covered 205 Live before it became that. So like I can't remember exactly when it all switched. I kind of counted as one show, but I'm happy. I'm happy with my draft. We can move on to the next topics. We have about 10 minutes before I got to clock in for the shoot job.
I've clearly won. Thank you everybody for your support as I won the draft.
You have a more balanced roster. I'll give you that.
I have women on my roster because I care about the women, unlike Stephen Jensen.
Okay. Stephen Jensen, known women's wrestling hater, Stephen Jensen.
Yes.
Who does nothing but women. Hype up people like Masha Slamovich over and over and over and over again. Anyway, sorry.
All right. TNA Rebellion was this past weekend. A lot of big returns. Actually, Sami Callihan was back. Matt Hardy was back. And Mike Santana returned as well. He's going to be a big singles talent for them moving forward. Very happy to see Mike Santana. I think that's a guy that, Callihan, we've kind of seen what he can do in TNA. Matt Hardy still gets a good reaction, still draws a crowd at conventions and everything. I don't think that's as bad as people are making it out to be. Santana's a guy that actually feels very fresh on this roster, especially as a singles talent. And I'm happy that he's landed in TNA, and I look forward to seeing what he can do as a singles talent, because I do think there was some potential for him in AEW, didn't go anywhere, and now he's going to get a chance to really shine in TNA.
Yes. So I'll talk about all three of those real quick. And by the way, if you want a full review of TNA Rebellion, myself and Joel Pearl had the post show right here on the same YouTube channel. If you want to check it out, we were live right after the show, and we actually had John Alba on with us to talk about Matt Hardy because he had just returned to TNA, and Alba had no idea. He was totally kayfabed and didn't know himself, which is pretty cool. Sami Callihan, he's done everything you can do in TNA like multiple times. But I will give him this credit. I say this every time I talk about him. I will talk in the build-up to whatever pay-per-view match he has about how little I care about it, about how he's seen it 1,000 times, about how it's for sure going to be a hardcore match and all this stuff. But then when the match is over, I will say it delivered again. Like the guy, like it's like an anomaly. Like I just don't really care about Sami Callihan on the show anymore because he's been there for so long. It's similar to Eddie Edwards in a lot of ways. They've just been in the same position in a lot of ways for so long. Eddie Edwards has kind of reinvented himself with the system a bit lately, but like Callihan, I just feel like I've seen year after year after year doing the same thing, same feuds, yada yada. But then the pay-per-view matches that he has usually do really like they deliver. So I'll give him credit on that. But I wasn't like super stoked to see him back necessarily. Matt Hardy, I don't know what his actual status is. It sounds like he's a free agent and he's just doing like per appearances for TNA, which I think is smart. I mean, him versus Moose I think will be interesting, but I don't think he'll win. But I think maybe we'll see like some cinematic matches, some broken universe stuff that we haven't seen in a while from that. But also, but we also got to keep in mind that stuff got over like it was almost like a decade ago now already. That like the broken universe stuff was like starting to be a thing in Impact and all that. So we'll see how it goes. But I mean, I'm happy for Matt. I think it's it makes sense for him to show up in TNA again. And then when it comes to Mike Santana, I've talked about this before, but I've gotten to see him live a few times in Atlanta. I know for sure he was on a Terminus show, and I think he was also on a Battle Slam show. But I've seen him wrestle live multiple times as a singles wrestler. And I remember the first time that I saw him live doing singles, telling the people I was with, I was like, man, AEW should be doing more with this guy. Like, I think that he's like, I knew he was great as a tag team guy, and I'd been watching him for a long time, even back when they were EYFBO, before they even became LAX, and I followed his run for a long time. But I never knew how good of a singles performer he was, so I saw him live doing it. And and then there was the whole thing with him and Ortiz, and they're falling out or whatever. And a lot of that, from the outside looking in, a lot of it seems like, and I don't know specifically between the two guys, but a lot of it seems like Santana wanted more out of his career, and like Ortiz maybe was like content kind of with where things were and how things were, and Santana wanted more, and like they're just, whatever happened. They had a falling out, and like now it's time for AEW dropped the ball on their feud, by the way. They like relegated that whole thing to like Rampage, when like Ortiz versus Santana should have been like a highlighted feud on like Dynamite and Collision and stuff. We should have seen more of that. So I think it's a good fresh start for Santana as a singles performer going over to TNA. He'll immediately be treated like a big deal. I mean, he came in and he beat Steve Macklin, and Macklin, of course, is like upper level, main event level guy for TNA. So like when you come in and beat him, you're immediately establishing yourself like you're going to be a world title challenger probably pretty soon. So I think it was a good move for Mike Santana. I think it's a good move for TNA, and I'd expect within the next, I'd expect him to challenge for the TNA world title within the next probably 2 pay-per-views that they do. Like I think he'll be taken care of, and it's going to be on him to show out. Like if he goes out there and does this thing like I've seen, I think he'll get over, he'll stay over, and he might even become the next TNA champion. It's possible. I think he's got a really bright future. So, and then also, just like so many people before him, if he goes out and he proves his worth, maybe he talks to Tony Khan, a year or 2 from now, and Tony's like, "Hey, I'm going to bring you back as a singles guy. We're going to start things over, and we're going to push you." You never know. Maybe WWE winds up calling. And this could open a lot of doors for Mike Santana having a singles run in TNA. So I'm definitely here for it.
I didn't mind that like Santana Ortiz was on Rampage, just because like you got that show, you should utilize it to the best of your ability. The problem was they did it, and then there was no follow to it. Like if you're gonna do that, like make it mean something by following up with it. Santana was never on television afterwards, and Ortiz was only there. He did the weird thing with the Jarrett group in Eddie Kingston.
Yeah,
I don't think went anywhere. That was my issue with that. Not so much that it was on Rampage, because again, you got the hour, utilize it, put some stuff that people want to see on it, and they did that. But having no follow-up, that made it feel not rewarding as a viewer of, oh, I just tried to get invested into this, and then now I've never see these guys on television again. I look forward to Mike Santana in TNA. I think he's gonna be really good. I listened to an interview with him. He praised Steve Macklin. We're actually interviewing Macklin, myself and Joel, in about 3 hours from now. 4 hours. 2:00, everybody. 2:00 right here on this channel. Myself and Joel are interviewing Steve Macklin live. So
nice.
Yes. Look forward to that. In the indie spotlights, I didn't hit the bumper for the other. I'm sorry. But in the indie spotlight, Malcolm Monroe the third against Gary J from ICW, no holds barred, Pitfighter 19. Jensen, you want to talk about this match? I've watched this match, but what did you think of this? Why was this the indie spotlight?
Well, so ICW NHB is, they put on great events, and like just this past weekend they had Pitfighter 19, and they also had another no holds barred event the next day. The first show was in a cage. The next show they did chain links instead of ropes, and there was a lot of really good matches and a lot of deathmatch wrestling as well. A lot of gusset plates and skewers and glass and all that stuff that you normally see. The reason I chose this match was for a couple of reasons. One, because it didn't include all like the super like hardcore deathmatch stuff. Like you don't see like a ton of like blood and guts, but there's still a lot of violence in the match. I think this is a good kind of introductory match to people who might want to check out ICW and HB. And I think they had a really, really great opening match on top of that. Like they were the first match of the show, the first match of both of the double show weekend. And MM3, also a part of a tag team with Tommy Vendetta, aka Thomas Oliver Vendetta. Their manager is Darren McCarty, who I know that you know from the NHL world. But MM3 and Gary J, they put on a great opening match. I just thought it was really a really damn entertaining opener. I thought Mose and Dylan Hales on commentary really made it seem like it was a big deal. Mose compared the fight to Gaethje versus Holloway at one point, which I appreciated. But these guys fought inside the cage, outside the cage, in the crowd, taking power bombs on the concrete, and like the mat itself that they're wrestling on isn't like a traditional wrestling ring. Like it's like almost like the floor. But anyway, I just thought it was a really hard hitting match. I like both guys a lot. MM3 has a really bright future, and Gary J is like an indie veteran, mainly out of like the St. Louis area that I've been watching for a long time, who's been over in every company he's worked in. But still like really under the radar in a lot of ways, like never been signed and that kind of stuff. But always hard hitting, has some of the best elbows in all of wrestling, in my opinion. So I just wanted to highlight that because I thought it was a great opening match between two guys that we haven't really talked much about on the show. But I talk about both those guys every week on the Weekender.
So I don't watch a ton of ICW No Holds Barred because it's not my cup of tea. I've made that pretty clear that I can't.
Well, that's also why I chose this match, because this wasn't like gusset plates and skewers.
Yeah. This was like they use tables, they use chairs, and like I'm fine with that. It wasn't super over the top when it came to all the deathmatch typical stuff that you would see. It's an awkward because it is just like a giant cage. It's an awkward environment to have a wrestling match, and I give credit to, again, I've not watched a ton of this stuff, but I give credit to them that they did the best with that. There's the spots of like, hey, let me whip him into the cage, and MM3 is like climbing up the cage and doing moves off of it, like flips and stuff. They didn't close that door. Why wasn't the door locked? They just left that thing wide open the entire time. What's the point of this cage locking these people in if they're just easily fall out of it?
Did you freeze?
Okay.
Oh yeah, you froze for a second. I got you.
All right. I was saying they got to close the door because they fought outside. What's the point of this cage if you're not going to lock the cage door and keep them inside the cage? It was a good match. It was interesting. It was something different, something that I certainly am not likely to watch unless you ask me to watch this stuff, and so I can give my thoughts on it. I've heard of Gary J. You're right, he's been around a while, but he hasn't just been to any of the top companies. So it was fun seeing him in this environment, seeing a little bit more of him. And MM3, it's tough for me to give like an actual assessment of this match just because it didn't take place in a wrestling ring. And so
within like a minute, he got lawn darted through a table.
Yes.
And then like he was hitting like moonsaults off the cage, and like there was a lot of action. A lot of action.
I'm not trying to knock the match at all. Like it was a fun match. It was a good match, but because the environment is so different, it's tough to like assess them as in-ring workers because they were not in a ring. The lawn dart, by the way, Gary J was way off of his back. He could have easily slipped out. I did like Gary J's Death Valley driver through the table, though. He actually, he had him up there where MM3 was not going to slip out on that. It was fun. It was, again, something different that I certainly was not expecting you to pick. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. If this is your cup of tea, I'm sure there's plenty of good stuff on this show overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Check out both shows from this past weekend from ICW No Holds Barred. They both took place out of the TWE Arena, which is in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is a good lead-in for the interview y'all are going to hear in a second. Big TWE crossover, a lot of events for action wrestling, and a lot of stuff in the Southeast. I think the Southeast first IWTV series, I'm pretty sure that was out of the TWE Arena, if I remember correctly, too. So there's been a lot of stuff out of that arena. We talked to Matt Griffin, the CEO of Action Wrestling. You're about to hear that interview. And we actually talked some TWE, some TWE Arena in that. And of course, we preview Action Forever, talk Action Dean, all that kind of stuff. So enjoy the interview you're about to hear. I had to clock in for the shoot job. You can follow me on X at @FightTalk_. You can use code FIGHTTALK on independentwrestling.tv. And please listen to the Fightful Select Weekender podcast. I uploaded on Monday this past week because of all the stuff going on this weekend in the world of indie wrestling. Also, shout out to Sean Ross Sapp if you want to talk a little bit. I want to get off here about his appearance. He did a little bit of wrestling this past weekend at Paulcade. But yeah, enjoy this interview and Skol Vikings. I'm hoping the next time you guys see me, we have our quarterback of the future, and I will be locked in on the draft tonight. I'm very much looking forward to it. So I'm already late for work. I go clock. Well, I just clocked in, but they're probably asking where I'm at. See you, Jeremy. Good seeing you, Jeremy. Good seeing you, chat, and enjoy this conversation with Matt Griffin, Skol Vikings.
Good luck to your Vikings drafting JJ McCarthy tonight.
Drake May or JJ McCarthy or trade for Justin Herbert. We'll see what happens.
All right, everybody. Let's get into it. Matt Griffin from Action Wrestling. Talking about Action Dean, talking about Action Forever this weekend, talking about the SCI Tournament. Really fun interview with Matt. Here we go. Matt Griffin from Action Wrestling, the CEO of Action Wrestling. The CEO of Action Wrestling, Matt Griffin, and the Creator Spotlight.
Welcome to the Creator Spotlight here on the Spotlight on Fightful. I am Stephen Jensen, joined as always by Jeremy Lambert. And our guest today is the CEO of Action Wrestling. We have Matt Griffin on the show. Matt, how you doing, man? Thank you for joining us.
I am killing it. It's been an awesome month, and I got a show coming up on Friday, so it's been busy. I feel exhausted already, and we're not even there yet, but I feel great.
Yeah, well, so first off, I'll start this off by saying I don't know how many of our interviews you've seen. We've interviewed a lot of talent that you've promoted and worked with. A lot of people in the Southeast, but I mean, really all over the independent scene. But you're somebody, I've said it many times on this show. I have a list of people that I'm like chipping through that I've wanted to get on the show for a while. Since me and Jeremy started it like 2 years ago. You've been on my list for like 2 years now. And the only reason it hasn't happened yet is just the timing. And it was like, okay, Action Forever's coming up. This is perfect. Action Dean just happened. This is perfect. The timing was right. But just so you know, Matt, I've been in your orbit for a while, but thank you for finally joining the show today. We wanted you for a while.
Well, I appreciate that. It's good to be on a list and be wanted. It's very, I love to be able to discuss with people who, watch the shows and are very in tune with the indie scene. So I appreciate you guys inviting me.
Yeah, I will. Thank you once again for joining us. And just right off the top, I want to just get the conversation started off by asking you about Action Dean, because that show was a massive success. Honestly, I'm not just blowing smoke. I said this on the Weekender podcast over on Fightful Select when I was reviewing. I did a whole GCW collective review, and then I did a separate review of kind of the Guy WTV, kind of the other stuff that wasn't collective related. And I said my favorite show of the entire WrestleMania weekend, outside of WrestleMania Night 2, because my boy Cody Rhodes finally, finished the story. Outside of that, my favorite show of the entire weekend was Action Dean. So congratulations, and what's the feedback that you've been getting from that show?
Well, thank you. It's it's interesting. It's there's people who have a variety of opinions. Most of the praise has been great from people who are real hardcore fans. A lot of real hardcore fans who go back years and understand, who Dean Rasmussen even was and what he represented and what Death Valley Driver was, and that the show was a basically a compilation love letter to the tape trading days of the late 90s, early 2000s. People who understood it was going to be a variety show, really, really loved it. And the people who got it really loved it. And the people even who didn't get it at least liked it. So, there was it was very rewarding to see the experience, and I don't think it sunk in until I was on the ride back with two of the guys from the show, and I'm looking at the hashtag and all these tweets are just going down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's just flattering. Show of the weekend, show of the year, show of the decade, all this stuff. Yeah, it's all hyperbole, but it's very rewarding to see, especially when you're just starting to come down on that adrenaline high, and when you run a show, I never got into the ring. There's nothing I can do. I can only book wrestlers who I believe will deliver and put them in a position to succeed. And they they killed it. They made me look like, it's the wrestlers who make me look like I'm an incredible promoter and booker. That's really it. So it's been awesome.
I got a couple questions about Action Dean, but the first one I'm going to ask is, do you know if Tony Khan has finally watched this show?
I would love to know if he has. I should. One of my partners in the show, I need to ask if he's if Tony needs a comp Blu-ray or if he's got the IWTV subscription, promo code Action, and I would be interested in. That was hilarious because Stephen, until you sent it to me, I did not know that happened, and it was about 2:30 in the morning when I was in a bar after the ICW show that Friday night.
So
I know that he was very aware of the show for reasons that I won't go into, but I know he's very aware of the show, which is cool. I mean, he's one of the top guys of importance in the business, and I want him to look at the talent. I want him to see our wrestlers on there, and you never know what can happen. We have plenty of wrestlers that I used go on to sign contracts and be on AEW TV. So, that's not a far-fetched thing for somebody to see a match and get other opportunities, because there are a few wrestlers on the show who got other opportunities off of that show, and I know this. So that's good to hear.
That's awesome. And yeah, that was so basically what Matt's talking about is like when the show, and Jeremy was kind of brought this up, but what happened is after Ring of Honor Supercard they did the post-fight scrum for Super Honor, and he was asked a question about CMLL because Danielson versus Blue Panther had just happened, and he brought it up himself and basically said, I was a big fan of CMLL. I used to discuss it on message boards back in the day, and due to my work schedule, which I thought was so funny, you said that due to my work schedule, I wasn't available to make it to Action Dean because he was obviously promoting AEW and Ring of Honor shows as well. But yeah, Tony Khan gave y'all a real stamp of approval there. That was really cool to hear him say that. And then I posted about it. Matt saw it, and I thought it was just it was really cool that you guys got that moment kind of in front of the entire wrestling world with him bringing that up.
It was very cool. Things like that only help our show and what we're trying to do. We are independent level, which is you're doing yourself. I'm off in the. I'm going to be one tomorrow, setting up the ring. I'm going to be. I've got a ring. I've got a trailer. I've got a truck. We got to go ahead and do that. Yes, I have lots of help, but it's you're setting up chairs. You're setting up concessions. That's very much how independent wrestling is. So, anytime you have somebody who not only is aware of it, hopefully will watch it, but will take the time to tell others about it. That's a big deal. And Tony, you can slide into the DMs right there if you're hiring.
On the subject still of Action Dean, I want to know when this started to come together, because I was telling you off air, and I've said this on air as well. My two favorite shows, non WWE, was Bloodsport and Action Dean, because they were different than anything else from WrestleMania weekend. Bloodsport is obviously the hybrid MMA stuff. Action Dean, top to bottom, every match was something different. Oh, you want a cool kind of technical match? Here is Slim J at a Priest. Here's a dog collar match. Here is Matt Mikowski against a luchador. It's something different.
Yeah, surprise appearance.
Yeah. It's something different all throughout the card. So, and you don't always get that with WrestleMania weekend, which is a lot of here's a dream match, here's a 5-star match type of thing. So I want to know when the idea of this kind of really came together and when you started mapping this whole card out.
So I've got to give credit for the concept 100% to my partners, Eric Ritz with Segunda Caída, and Phil Schneider. He's writes for The Ringer. Among other things, both have been longtime Death Valley driver, as in decades, people. I was approached about a year and a half ago, and there was an idea, and WrestleMania wasn't even announced for Philly yet. It was like, well, we got to do it there. So the initial idea, and Daniel Makabe actually alludes to it in his promo, it was to do Ishikawa versus Daisuke on basically a Battle Arts match, in an actual Battle Arts style match in America. That was the deal. Basically, both men are older and too beat up. It's something they discussed, and it was decided not to do it. But there was a lot of other ideas that Bill and Eric had. So we kind of put our brains together and made a lot of different stuff work. Obviously, I had a lot of influence. That I had a lot of my guys. They had a lot of contacts from doing various interviews and being around the business for decades. So it was kind of a big melting pot of ideas, which was great. And okay, we're able to go ahead and have access to Dr. Cerebro. That's fucking insane. How do we not do this? That's, to me, Gringo versus Cerebro was the most underrated, under the radar match, because I'm promoting it, and I could not believe that I was actually promoting it. That was the most underrated match of the entire weekend going in. And then coming out, of course, Mad Dog Connolly and Damus literally just destroyed themselves, and the casualty count was 5 chairs. There were 5 chairs completely destroyed to the point they were unfixable. I counted because I did go ahead and replace them for the next night. H2O hosting ICW, so that was hilarious. So yeah, it was a great thing, and yes, I'm fully aware that it was a 3.5+ hour show. I don't care, because it's the one time all year that I'm going to do it, and I don't run 3-hour shows. But yes, we're putting on a 12-match show, but there's a reason, and I think it's a fairly good reason. It's kind of a giant yearbook of a show, like a compendium, as opposed to A to Z type of show that a normal promotion might run.
Now, you mentioned
so basically.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry. There was a little bit of a connection. Go ahead.
That's okay. But to fully answer the question, Phil and Eric and I stayed in touch, and then when Philadelphia came, when that was announced, I was like, well, I assume that H2O and IWTV are going to do something. So, I have a good relationship. I really like Matt Tremont, great guy. And then eventually he did set it up and kind of set out the terms, and I was fortunate enough to get it was a Thursday night slot at 8:00. Was very competitive. There was some great shows there. There was some talent who we couldn't get because they were going to be elsewhere. There was some talent who declined some wacky ideas. As crazy as the show was, some of the concepts that were initially thought of were even insaner.
Okay, I mean, we got to know what those are, Matt.
Because I definitely have ideas that I want to use in the future. I would happily tell. I don't mind talking about the Ishikawa Ikeda Battle Arts match, because that's pretty much not going to happen now. Just because they're older, they're beat up, and travel from Japan is taxing. So that's something I don't mind. But some of the other ideas I don't want to tell, because I would love to be able to. I keep ideas in the back of my head for a very long time. I'd love to be able to make some of those come true.
That's fair. Now, something we've just talked about on the Action Dean show, one of the matches that I saw people talking about the most coming out of it, Jeremy alluded to it, you brought it up as well, was Mad Dog Connolly over Damus. That dog collar match was, Mad Dog Connolly is someone who has been on my radar for a while, but it feels like he really had a big breakout weekend because of this Action Dean show, that performance. Now, this is going to be airing on Thursday, so the news is out as of last night, or as of in real time, about to happen any minute, but everyone who's watching this last night, Mad Dog Connolly is the final entrant to the Phoenix City Invitational Tournament. And can you speak on kind of the decision of putting Connolly in the tournament and the feedback you've gotten from that dog collar match?
Well, I first off, I kind of likened Connolly's WrestleMania weekend to PCO in 2018. One match, an incredibly violent match that was on a well-received show and just something that was a spectacle. And with having one match, I think you can go ahead and be a little more tolerant of abusing your body because you know you don't have another match at like, all right, well, I got to get there for the midnight show. And then what's my call time for the noon show? And you don't have those type of factors. So now, to be fair, I do think that Mad Dog was going to go out, especially. Demus only had the one match. He was flying to, I believe it was Phoenix the next day for his stuff to continue more of his shows. But I think that was something that played into it a big deal. I'm sorry, I forget the second half of the question. Oh, Mad Dog
basically
into
tying that in. I mean, like my assumption, and we've kind of talked in the DMs a little bit, with kayfabe this a little bit, I guess. But like, I when you told me that he was going to be a part of this tournament, my immediate response was awesome, because coming out that performance at Ashton Dean, people are going to want this, and you were like, yep, that's a big reason why we put him in there. So I mean, those are the kind of performances, and the SCI tournament really is like, I'm not just blowing smoke because you're here. That's the tournament I look forward to the most every year in pro wrestling. Like, it's a really prestigious tournament, and the names that have come through that thing and gone on to that tournament, and it's a very coveted spot to be one of the people that's chosen. So that's a big performance and big rewards for Mad Dog.
Yeah, Mad Dog is somebody that I had my eye on for a while. He's doing a lot of good work, like his feud with Manders and in St. Louis Anarchy, which I had a lot of people tell me, like, oh, you got to watch this match. It's like, I've seen it. I agree with you. So he's somebody who's been doing good work. I think what we were able to do with this is take and blow it up on hopefully on a more national scale for him with the nature of the show, but just showcase what somebody like Connolly has been doing on these shows for some time. And I really liked his work. It was violent as hell. I'm a fan of that. I like violence. When you get an opportunity like this, like there's no small opportunities. I will say we've had some small things, small chance meetings lead into futures or SCI bookings, lead into coming into action. I mean, I can even, there's one story I won't tell because it's a digression, but just making a small intro, and this wrestler is now the headliner in a promotion where they were just like, hey, if you have anything for this guy, he's going to do you a solid and drive somebody to the show. He'll be around if you have anything. And you get over, you be easy to work with. Those are the keys. Those are the real keys. I don't work with people that I don't want to be around. I refuse to do it. So, if you can be as difficult or as weird sounding on Twitter, keep up your character, whatever. But as long as you're easy to deal with personally in the DMs and at shows, I'm happy to work with somebody. And Mad Dog took advantage of a single match, and it's hopefully going to propel him to other things. SCI I don't see as a final destination or anything either. I mean, that's just a bigger stepping stone to something else, hopefully.
To piggyback off of SCI, actually Skylar Russell, who helps out with the rankings. First off, he said, "Can you put me over?" So if you want to put over Skylar, fine. If you want to bury Skylar, that's even more appreciated on this show.
Well, Skylar, I'm running a show in May, and Skylar is going to his wife's elementary graduation. Like, that's more important, her class graduating, than going to Action Wrestling. So Skylar, you're buried. He's already bought He's already bought his tickets for his Friday night show, so I can bury him for a minute now. Skylar's great, and he's one of the ones with a couple other fans who do our the Action Awards. They asked me if they could do it, and I was like, "All right, if you're going to do awards, I want them to be completely legit. I don't want anything to do with them. I will happily publicize them, but you do all the work and just tell me what to tweet and what to announce, and I'll retweet stuff." And Skylar's done great. So he's done a great job spreading the word and telling people and writing about us, which is awesome.
Oh, he had a writing question. I'm interested in this as well because you just mentioned Mad Dog and how the performance from Dean kind of propelled him to the SCI tournament. When the SCI tournament is announced and when participants are announced, when do you have the idea of I want these people for this tournament? How far out or how close to does this kind of all come together in your head?
Well, SCI is booked by myself and Scott Hensley with input from others like, just for example, Dylan Hales and Jaden Newman. They're with our partner promotion, Total Wrestling Entertainment, TWE in Chattanooga. They're also on IWTV. Please check them out. They stream live pretty often Saturday at 8 o'clock for their shows. I would say me and Scott have the first discussion the Sunday or Monday after SCI. So we are talking stuff a year out without even knowing the date. We might be discussing, and now when we discuss it, it's not locked in place. Winners have often changed and been altered, and opening round matches get tinkered with and ideas change because we want to be fluid. We want to react. There's one particular company that made a booking decision very far in advance, and I did not, I wasn't a booker. I didn't have authority, but I could see it. They just didn't want to change their minds, and I was like, it's the absolute wrong decision. And, it ended up being a dud, and it looks even weirder several years later, and there's nothing you can do about it. So we don't want to lock ourselves in, but we are discussing it constantly. We have already had certain things we've discussed for 2025, both SCI and futures. Especially even more so for futures, or we're keeping our eye on talent, because for our 9-person futures tournament, we only have one shot at them. They only get to do the 9-person futures tournament one time. SCI, you can be in multiple times. So there's not necessarily that impetus with SCI. You can bring somebody back the next year. We can do different storytelling than we can at our future show. So, like for example, with futures, it might be a name might come up. And it's like, well, let's see where they are at this time next year before potentially inviting them, because we really want to try to maximize everything we possibly can. There's no wasted spots on a show. There's no gimmies. Everything is earned. Sometimes you take a chance on a talent who sometimes you might be early on a talent. There's been people in wrestling that I've been in early on, and they didn't quite develop where I thought they might till later. Other times it just never happens. They never develop into what you think, but you're projecting. And I'm sorry, I'm in the parking lot right now of my son's inside taking batting practice. So there's some people coming and going in the parking lot.
Nice.
My 9-year-old, who has had an official TWE or 423 Chaos match, is in there, hopefully sharpening its baseball skills.
There you go. No, it's no problem at all. It's a nice day outside right now. The connection's been pretty good for the most part, knock on wood. Been a couple spotty parts, but we were able to hear you just fine. And so I don't know if you're able to tell me this, but I'm just curious to ask, since you kind of mentioned that how fluid it can be as far as like the decision making, like how you don't stay married to one idea and you kind of go based on reaction and stuff. When's like the latest that you made a decision change that affected the outcome of the SCI? Like, have we ever been like mid-tournament in that decision change, or was it always like going into it, you knew it was going to happen at least before the show?
Oh yeah, we have definitely changed. We have definitely changed stuff. I will not be specific, but there was one year that we went in and we knew going in that we were going to decide and book the second half on Saturday. And the winner was not officially chosen. I think we basically knew who it was going to be, but it was not officially 100% signed off on until after Futures at, I think, a Pizza Hut locally to Saudi Daisy High School or wherever we ran that year. Usually it's going to be the big meetings either happen right outside wherever you could eat a Saudi Daisy, if that's where it was, or Scott and I often do a post run through of Cookout. So whatever we had to discuss, it was either in the drive-through line at Cookout or at a Pizza Hut in Saudi Daisy.
Okay. What's your Cookout order?
Yes, that's the most important question we can ask is what's the Cookout order?
All right. So I will get a shake sometimes. I'm not always in the mood for a shake, but I like having a BLT that I can stash for a little bit later. And I like having a dog and a burger, and I'll mix up what I like on the dog and burger. I'll mix up what I have toppings wise, but that's generally it. BLT, dog, burger.
Okay. Now, do you do any sides, like, because they do like the cheese curds and like the hush puppies and no sides? Okay.
Not much of a sides guy.
You can get like a BLT on the side, like Cookout. The side is half the time the actual main course.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had like the Frito pie, and it's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
I miss the Cookout. I'm in Ohio. I'm from North Carolina, and I don't know if it's ever going to make its way to Ohio. It needs to, though. Anytime I'm down south, I always got to make the Cookout stop. Cookout and Bojangles. Big fan
of Cookout.
Yes, I've got one about 15 minutes from me, and I had one about 15 minutes from me in Nashville as well. So the last decade has been accessible to a Cookout, which has been nice. You mentioned the TWE. This is kind of a multi-layered question, but like one thing that's been pretty cool to see from a fan perspective is how many companies are using the TWE arena, like how it's become like a hub for the Southeast for so many promotions. I've told this story on the show before, and actually with him on the show, and we interviewed him a while back, but Jaden Newman years ago, I talked to him while he was in the crowd watching the SCI tournament. Like he had started wrestling and he was getting bookings, but he wasn't quote unquote like established enough to be a part of the SCI. And I remember talking to him in the crowd that day and him literally telling me like his biggest goal in wrestling was just to get in that tournament. We were in his high school that he had graduated from. We're having this conversation. And what's it like seeing TWE and Jaden Newman in particular, because he's gone from wanting to be in the tournament to helping you book the thing.
Yeah, it's rewarding. It's rewarding because we can jokingly talk about how these are my kids, but that's a term of endearment for these are people I look out for and I try to advise and I recommend to other people. There's somebody. I'm starting to consider him one of my kids. He's wanting to run shows, and I'm like, all right, here's certain things you have to do. Whether it's going to come, whether it's going to lead to anything or not, you have to do this for reasons. Because you want to make sure you're doing things the right way. But it's rewarding. We've had a good experience at TWE. Myself, I've been able to wrestle in TWE a few times. I've done managing there, not in some time. But I used to go up fairly regularly. I really enjoy the building. I enjoy the people. Jaden is a hard worker. He's totally driven to be as good as he can. He has done multiple tours of Europe, and he's a 10-year veteran, and is he 25 or 26 now?
Yeah,
and he's got a decade in. I mean, he's got, people who are just starting and they're his age, but they're the young boy to him. And he's also passing on his knowledge. When he goes on car rides, he puts some of his students in there so they can get experience, meet other people. And he's trying to do things. And, like Scott, Dylan, and I, Jaden, we always talk about wanting to do the right things, but also pass it on because Jaden, when he was coming up, didn't always have the veterans to kind of show the way and lead him. And we're trying to change that and turn him into a veteran who can be a leader in that Chattanooga area.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, you're not the first person I've heard say that. I've heard many people that are like mentors to Jaden say that like he just needed like the guidance, and he's like been on. I mean, what he's doing has been incredible. So I'm a very big fan, obviously. Something obviously I want to talk about Action Forever a little bit. There's plenty of stuff. I could talk to you for hours about all these talents and how big of a fan I am of all these people and the stuff you got going on. But Action Forever is coming up. That is this weekend. It's on Friday night, correct?
Friday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, live on the award-winning IWTV.
Yes, and you got some big matches. One of the big matches you've got is Action Wrestling champion Alex Kane, former MLW world champion. He's taking on Manders, former SCI tournament winner, for that title. Can you tell us a little bit about that match and what people should expect out of that one?
Yeah, they had a match 2 months ago that had a whole lot of interference, and Manders didn't quite get a fair shot. Last month there was a six-man tag with him, Rico Gonzalez, and Bobby Flacco against the Good Hand. Good Hand attacked Manders before he even got his gear on, and he was out of the match. So, I think that's a match between two guys who are very hard hitting, like to throw. Both of them can technically wrestle, but this is one of those big boy type of matches where they're gonna throw some heat. Just to follow up on the example I was talking about earlier, though, how Alex Kane came into my universe is we decided during the COVID years, hey, let's try to run Futures as a standalone event. That was October 2020, much later than we usually did. But we pitched it. So we did an action show on a Friday night. We did Futures Saturday at 2, and then there was a TWE event Saturday at 8 o'clock. And that was the first time I met Alex Kane. Scott Hensley had been going down to Pro South in Piedmont, Alabama, seen him, really liked him, and he impressed the shit out of me and was like, all right, you got to come in next month at Action. So we got him in, and it's like, well, we got to bring him back. And that was 3.5 years ago. I'm looking forward to doing that one again. I like to do rematches when you can tell stories, and I think we're working on a pretty good one with Kane and Manders.
I want to ask about working with Mustafa Ali, who is coming into the territory here, and now his gimmick is that he's a little bit of a jerk. We've interviewed him in character. He's taking his campaign very seriously. He's just coming in. No one can touch him. But you mentioned working with good people, and by all accounts, Mustafa Ali is a very good person to work with, and is very helpful. I don't know if you want to break kayfabe on his gimmick and put him over, but just working with Ali.
I have not had the opportunity to meet him yet. He's been completely personable, dealing with over email, and just very easy, which is a great sign, very polite. I'm looking forward to meeting him on Friday. I'm going to pick him up from the airport myself, to try to establish that relationship. I'm looking forward to it because when I started Action Wrestling, I will say that I thought the two wrestlers who would typify what my ideal version of Action would be were Mustafa Ali and Buddy Murphy. Those were the two that I thought when when I'm thinking fast-paced action, that's what's in my head, is a Ali Murphy match. So to have one of the two in is very exciting. That's happening because of our friends, the Wrestling Junkies podcast. They're helping out a lot with that. And Ali versus Landon Hale, I know, is a dream match. We've worked on this for months, and oh my gosh, I can't believe it's almost here.
Yeah, looking forward. That's a big one. Another big match, literally, is Cruel defending that IWTV championship against Adam Priest. And I mean, for people who may not know, these guys are very linked to one another and have been for a very long time. I don't know how much I want to talk, but I'm almost positive Adam Priest talked about this when we interviewed him. but like the two of them, like they've traveled the roads together. Like they've worked a lot of the same shows. Like they've known each other a very long time, and they have been feuding with one another. And there has been a lot of buildup heading into this IWTV Championship match. And for my money, listen, there's a lot of great independent talent. There's a lot of people who I would love to see hold that IWTV Championship. But I mean, if you had a gun to my head and said, who do I think, given all the circumstances right now, should be the next champion? I'd say Adam Priest. And I feel like there's a good chance we could see a new champion.
Well, do you remember at the Festival when it was when Matt Tremont ended up with it? And won a gauntlet match. Do you recall who Matt Tremont beat for it? It was Adam Priest.
Yeah.
I've told this to a lot of people. I firmly believe that Adam Priest is the most underrated wrestler in the Southeast, and out of every single wrestler on the Indies who has never had a contract, I think he's the most deserving, because he's got the nickname Any Style for a reason. He can do, a technical wrestling match, and then he can go into the pit at ICW and just absolutely have great matches in both. He can work with anybody. He could do an opening match. He can do a main event. He could go 7 minutes. He could go 20. And Cruel is somebody in his alter ego. We used to talk about what he envisioned and wanted, and that was to break out of Georgia and break out of the Southeast, because Georgia Indies can be a trap. You can wrestle Friday night, Saturday night, almost every weekend, and have a career, and you've only wrestled in 4 towns, and nobody really knows you. And that can be a trap if you're talented and you want to get seen on the national scene, which is my goal. My goal has never been to run a local Georgia promotion. I have friends who do those, and that's great. They only care about drawing fans every 2 weeks, and I love that for them, because they usually do good numbers. They sell concessions. That's what they're concerned with. Me, I wanted to run a national level promotion. That's why shows like having Dean Have Fun Be Sad in Tampa in 2021, running the Action Futures in Tennessee. I want to be a national level promotion. The amount of resources we have are scant, but that's my goal. Cruel wanted that. He wanted to be a national level guy. And the two of them are very similar in they want to go ahead and they want to nail the storytelling aspects so that people really care what they're doing, and it has impact. And they've taken this feud to Southern Honor, to ICW, and I'm trying to think if there's anywhere where else. I believe they've done it in a couple other shows, and that's cool. That's an IWTV feud that spans different promotions. That's very cool. This isn't an action only match, so I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I have to imagine that Cruel's work in a former lifetime is what probably helped get him on MLW's radar years back. And then I will say MLW's his most recent run at MLW, I think they've utilized him a lot better than the first run. Just personally, like, I'm a big fan of his. I've said it 1,000 times. When I see that guy, he looks like money. It's just like, do you see the size on that dude? He's athletic, and then he starts like jumping over the top rope with the Undertaker, and you're like, what? This guy's got it all.
Yeah, and I think the biggest mistake that some people think is that Cruel only gets what he has. Once you get to see him several times, you don't think this anymore. But I know that there's he's super tall, so of course he gets opportunities, and that's not the case. If he were 6 inches shorter, he'd still be a guy, because he is talented, and not just physically talented, but he's incredibly smart. He's like me. We kick a lot of ideas. I will come up with 9 ideas and take the 10th one and put it into practice, because I think that's how you nail the best actual thing. I'm not married to any idea. Just like we talk about with SCI, we have a plan that we're moving towards, but things may shift. I'm happy to go ahead and change things, add things, use an old idea, reference something, because that's all storytelling too.
Yeah, one of the best ideas I think I've ever seen executed. I don't know who to give credit to, because this was years ago. I don't know if I should be giving you credit, should be giving Dylan Hales credit, Scott Hensley. I'm not sure, but I remember years ago, the SCI tournament, the SCI Rumble, when AC Mack won it, just entering last. Like, that was such a good idea. You didn't have to come in and eliminate anyone. Everyone was out of the match. You just like slid in, and he was the last one in and won. It was such a heel move. It was great.
I think the last two was it Jaden and O'Shea Edwards. That idea creatively was not mine. It had been in the can for a while before I came involved in booking SCI. I became one of the SCI bookers right after the 2018 show.
Gotcha.
And that was an idea that was in the can. I helped craft it a little bit, but it was a beautiful idea. It was brilliant because who has the balls to do something like that? You know, you have 29 go in, 29 go out, and then, and this is the hazards of filming in a parking lot. There's a very loud truck.
Yes.
But
I just saw the message, Matt. I gotta get out of here in a second.
Yeah, I do have to wrap up shortly.
So,
I do have to wrap up shortly, if that's okay.
Yeah. So, Jeremy, any last questions?
No, I was gonna go ahead and say, let everybody know where they can follow you at. Plug the show that's on Friday on IWTV, and anything else you want to get out there and promote.
Yes, you can follow us right there at Wrestle Action 1. We're on Facebook, Action Wrestling 1, as well as Instagram. Me personally, at Matt the Mouth is my Twitter handle. We're on IWTV Live on Friday, the 26th, with Action Forever. It is our 6-year anniversary show, and looking back to year 1, where it was in a very basic building, we had no banners, we had no nothing. We set up a ring. It's really cool to see how we've been able to grow, and we've done 2 700 people houses this year at some of our school partner shows. So it's please check us out. If you're new to IWTV, promo code ACTION, and please watch us on IWTV. Also at SmartMark Video, the Dean Blu-ray just came out. If you're interested in physical media, which you should be, you can purchase the Dean Blu-ray on smartmarkvideo.com.
And can I say that cover is fantastic? It's great. So if you've not seen that, you can go to the Action Wrestling Twitter, or just go to SmartMark and get the actual DVD. Go buy it.
Yes, please do. That was created. I'm going to plug. Daniel Moore had the Dr. Cerebro pose photo. The front and back action photos were Amy Morgore, Jersey photographer, and the design. I came up with the cover base. That's an actual Death Valley driver review image that they used on the front cover, and obviously the board was just the back. I came up with that, gave it to Skunk Kyle Guthrie, who just absolutely nailed it. I had to give him very few edits, very few suggestions to edit. It was near perfect the way I got it the first time. So, please, Dean on smartmarkvideo.com. It's I'm told already selling great, so want to keep that up.
Matt, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Guys, all the links are below to follow the promotion, to order or sign up for IWTV if you're not signed up, or just click directly, watch the show on Friday nights. It is Action Forever, celebrating 6 years, Action Wrestling. Matt, thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good luck with the show tomorrow, by the time this airs, or 2 days right now. Good luck with the show. Good luck with everything. Guys, we'll be right back here on the Spotlight. Big thank you to Matt Griffin of Action Wrestling for joining us. Everyone can go over to IWTV. You can use the code ACTION, or you can use the code Fight Talk. Check out Action Forever tomorrow night. Mustafa Ali is on that show. Alex Kane, Adam Priest, Cruel. Big show for Action Wrestling. Go check that out tomorrow night on IWTV. Guys, we will be back next week here on the Spotlight. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We appreciate the super chats. We appreciate the comments in the chat. Later on today, in about 3 hours from now, a little over 3 hours from now, Steve Macklin is going to join myself and Joel Pearl right here on this channel. That's right. We are on the main channel, myself and Joel Pearl, interviewing Steve Macklin from TNA Wrestling. It's The 1-year anniversary of our first interview with Macklin was yesterday. And I'm going to try to get Steve Macklin to continue to beat up Joel Pearl. That's going to be today at 2 p.m. Eastern right here on this channel. Stephen Jensen and I will be back next Thursday, recapping the WWE Draft, talking all the fallout from Tony Khan getting injured. We will see, or getting attacked, injured. We'll see if he's selling the attack tonight during the NFL Draft. I'm sure Jensen will have things to say about the NFL Draft, depending on what his Vikings do. We'll be back next Thursday with a brand new episode of The Spotlight. Everyone check out In the Weeds at 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow on Fightful Overbooked. Check out Coexisting with Rob and Maggie at 3 p.m. Eastern on Fightful Overbooked. Head over to FightfulOverbooked.com. Check out all the great shows we have going on over there. Guys, again, we'll be back next week, guys and gals. We'll be back next week. We appreciate y'all. Thank you, guys. Everyone, enjoy your weekend. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the wrestling. Enjoy the playoffs, basketball, hockey. Enjoy the NFL Draft. Enjoy whatever else is on television. Enjoy just things this weekend. All right, everybody. Talk to y'all next week. Bye, everyone.